Matt Wyatt, MSU color analyst, played quarterback at MSU. He joins us on the New Belgium Fat Tower Hotline. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Bo. Good to talk to you. How's your show going today?
It's going well, man. What was it like? How was that calling that game on Saturday as a former player? MSU an underdog by 9 points. Hadn't won in a while in Vaught Hemingway, especially against a good team or a team with talent.
Yeah.
What was it like there? Tell me what was going on.
Yeah, no, it was a fun game to call. You had a lot of big plays offensively, right? I mean, you have the fourth most rushing yards that a Mississippi State team has ever had. And then you have a kid that sets your all-time rushing record in a single game. So from a radio perspective, there's plenty to talk about. There's a lot of excitement. The scoring keeps the blood flowing. And, so it was a fun game to call from a radio standpoint. And then from an analyst standpoint, it was fun to watch State make a few adjustments throughout the game that started to work. And, it was a good day. It really was. And I think it's crazy, isn't it, Bo, how quick things can turn on its edge and go 180 degrees? Because a month and a half ago, most people would have predicted a score like that the other way.
Yeah. Well, they would have. You're right, and nobody thought that MSU would be able to stay on the field with Ole Miss this year, coming out of the Sugar Bowl, as you said, coming out of recruiting, and then the way that MSU started their season. Can you talk about Fitzgerald going to the second level, his speed, the acceleration, and what he's doing to cornerbacks and safeties in this league, Matt?
Yeah, and everything that you talk about with Fitz, Bo, should always be against the backdrop that he has 2 more years to develop. And so if Mullen continues if he and Brian Johnson continue to be his coach for the next 2 years, then I think the sky's the limit. If they don't, if they leave and go somewhere, then all bets are off. You don't know, but still coaches at that level that know what they're doing, Fitz is going to continue to develop into a better and better player. So all kind of comparisons and all this kind of stuff. I've said for a couple of years, this, we've had some conversations about it, that and over the last couple of years, I might say this to people at a speaking event, and it's always funny to get the looks on people's faces when you say, if they lined him up and raced, Fitz would run off and leave a guy like Dak. He'd run off and leave him. And people look at you like, are you sure? Yeah, I mean, Fitz has always been a low 4.6, high 4.5 kind of 40-yard dash. And excellent quickness and, explosiveness for a guy who is 6'5 and a half and about 230 pounds. So look at him athletically. And is it fair to compare him to Dak? Not really, but since that's what everybody does, I'm going to go there. He's taller, he's faster, he's heavier, and he has more natural pop in that arm, like the ball jumps out of his arm. Like throwing a ball down the field, it's not an arm strength issue ever, easy arm strength, and Fitz has like extra run on the end of his throw if he's throwing that deep comeback from the far hash or throwing that vertical. His deal is learning to judge the speed of the receiver and lay it in there where it's catchable, because he can overthrow anything. So the tools are there. What Dak has that a guy like Fitz has to get to is between the ears, the anticipation before the snap, the ability on the fly to process everything so quickly mentally and find the one mistake the defense has made and make them pay for it. I'm not sure I've seen anybody in recent memory any better at that than Dak. So if Fitzgerald, on the read part of it, the understanding defensive alignment and movement, if he develops in that area and gets anywhere close to where Dak was at the end of his career, Fitz can be really dangerous over the next couple of years.
Matt Wyatt, MSU color analyst, played quarterback at MSU on the New Belgium Fat Tower Hotline, talking Fitzgerald and MSU. Big win, 55-20 for MSU over Ole Miss. Matt, I didn't think that offensive line could move anybody
Yeah.
like that. And especially Isaac Gross, DJ Jones, Benito Jones, and Marquise Haynes, and even Fadal Brown when he was healthy during that game, among others. But got to tip your hat to that group, right?
Well, you do. You definitely do. And, Bo, you know what's interesting? Like, you ought to go back if you get a chance. Go on the Watch ESPN app and watch the replay on the app of that game, which is that overhead camera angle that they were giving you throughout the game. You know, you had the TV copy, but they also had the you could watch every play from that overhead spider camera or whatever.
Sure.
And so you see the whole game from behind the offensive line. And I love that view because that, to me, as a former player, that looks like football to me. It's like how you watch film. And you'll notice when State's running these power runs and quarterback power, they're kind of crisscrossing on the line of scrimmage is a way that I could describe it for a fan, where as opposed to a lot of typical zone blocking, which they did a lot of zone runs, but when they run that power, they would block down one way or the other and then pull that backside guard in front of the quarterback. So what you're doing is you're kind of taking away the quickness advantage that Ole Miss had on its defensive front with Isaac Gross and DJ Jones and Benito Jones. And you take that away because instead of trying to block them straight up going down the field, they're going to out-quick you around the edge, get underneath you, and blow your play up. You say Hut, the guy who's lined up in front of Isaac Gross is now gone all of a sudden, pulling, and then somebody hits him in the ear from the side. So you're crossing them up a little bit. And what State was doing is pulling Elton Jenkins, who's an athletic guy who played offensive tackle. Well, they played him at left guard the whole game. And if you watch, Bo, about 6 or 7 of the big plays are Elton Jenkins pulling from left guard up into the hole out in front of the runner, and he's the lead guy. And there were several plays. There was an Aries Williams touchdown run where Tony Connor found himself standing in the box about to get blocked by Elton Jenkins pulling in front of Aries Williams. Jenkins leans on him, and Connor just went to the ground, just basically laid down. And because they got tired of this big guard hitting those linebackers all day. He had a phenomenal game at left guard and was a big difference in their running game.
And he and Rankin are back, and Dion Calhoun, right? So Jenkins.
Yeah, you get Calhoun back. That's right.
Yeah, all right. So Calhoun, who's played a lot of ball, and Jenkins, who's played a lot of ball, and Rankin, who some people still believe is playing out of position, comes back. There's some in the program that are adamant that he's a right tackle and maybe even would be a really good guard, but I guess you got to play guys where you got to play them. Matt Wyatt talking about the Egg Bowl, MSU 55-20. Big win for Dan Mullen. Big win for the program. Now they're going bowling. That's something else to look at, those 15 extra practices. I was wrong on Aries Williams, Matt. I didn't think he was an SEC caliber back. And I know he's not going to, he's not going to take him to the house, so to speak. But between the tackles, he has proven that he's shifty. It looks like he's got the lamps, the vision to do what he needs to do. Can you talk a little bit about how his game developed the last 4 to 5 weeks of the season and what it looks like for the future?
Yeah, well, and coming out of high school with him, it's sometimes when you make a comparison to a guy that everybody knows, they think you're saying that he's going to be as great a player. That's
Sure.
not it. It's just that if I say Carnell Williams, Cadillac Williams from Auburn, then everybody's going to have a picture in their head of his running style. Low to the ground, constantly putting his hand on the ground to keep himself up, and then he twists and turns and has about 2 spin moves in every run. That was Cadillac Williams. And that's the kind of player that Aries Williams was coming out of high school, is this slashing runner who grinds out all these extra yards because he's got great balance, and you could never really get a square shot on him. And so he's that kind of runner, twisting and turning and spinning and all that kind of stuff. And for whatever reason, he was never able to, in the early part of the year, take over the lion's share of the carries. But as he did more things right outside of carrying the ball. His ability to carry the ball is never a question. It's just, can you do everything else that you have to do at that position? If the quarterback checks at the line of scrimmage, do you know what to do? All that.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets to that point. Here's what I like the most about it is, number one, he's tough as nails physically. And he runs the ball physically at the end of his runs. But the most important thing is he does what a lot of good backs do, and that is this innate ability to understand the potential of the play, right? How many times this year did you see Aries Williams get a handoff, hesitate at the line of scrimmage, try to bounce it outside, and get caught for a 2-yard loss? It never happened.
Right.
Not one. What he does is in that offense, and they got better running the ball down the stretch for the most part when he was involved, because when he'd see things develop at the line of scrimmage in a moment's notice, he understands the full potential of the play.
Right.
Where I'm going to get hit, when I'm going to get hit, where the contact is coming from, and then he'll get to that full potential of the play, take the contact on, and try to drive it down the field and get 2 extra yards. And that's where his value is as a running back.
It'd be interesting to see how he and Fitz mature and develop. They're both sophomores. Matt Wyatt,
yeah,
MSU. Go ahead.
Tell you both. It's going to be fun to watch in the next few years if they can piece that offensive line together in front of them.
That's right. Calhoun, Rankin, and Jenkins come back, and then it'll depend on what they can do there with the 2 other places. Matt Wyatt on the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone, joins us on the New Belgium Fat Tower Hotline. Played quarterback at MSU and also MSU color analyst. Defensively, I never, ever thought that they would challenge the Ole Miss receivers the way they did, both getting physical at the point of attack, ball. Peters made some plays, Bryant before the concussion, Kevon. I mean, there were several, McLaurin, Dirt to a certain extent. There were several guys that played above their pay grade, so to speak, Matt, than what they had played in the previous 2.5, 3 months. Your thoughts on the way the secondary reacted to playing against Stringfellow and Jefferson and AJ, some really good receivers?
Yeah, that's that the corner adjustment was a big part of the game.
Cedric Giles was one I didn't mention either.
Yeah, Giles played well. And he, to me, after he came back midway point of the season after breaking that arm, missed the first half of the year. He was shaky when he first got out there. I think that might have been the BYU game. But he looked to me like he got a little better and a little better each week being back out there. But here's a key adjustment in the game, I felt, and that was you were up 6-3. They put a drive together, and Shea Patterson throws the jump ball in the end zone, in that north end zone, to Stringfellow, who caught it for a touchdown to retake the lead for Ole Miss, 10-6. And that was a jump ball, one-on-one on the back pylon over Chris Rayford, who's about 5'10". And going into the game, I talked about it all week, that's one major advantage for Ole Miss is if they could get the ball in the red zone, they're going to score red zone touchdowns because they'll be able to throw that jump ball over your head. One-on-one with their receivers versus your corners, huge advantage for them. So when that play happened, they put Jamal Peters in the game at corner and stuck with him. Okay? And you're right, challenged him. And, later he comes up with the interception in the red zone because he had good coverage. Peters, if you're going to play him at corner, he's a prototypical red zone corner because he didn't have to worry about running with a guy 40 yards downfield. Mm-hmm. He's just got to cover him for 15 yards and outplay him on a jump ball. So that move paid off with a turnover. And you're right, Giles and Peters both. The rest of the game, State's corners, I thought, played better than they had all year long, not giving up the big sideline throw. Ole Miss tried it about 6 times in the game, a double move, slant and go. Get a little pump fake from the quarterback, slant and go to A.J. Brown, slant or hitch and go to Stringfellow. But State's corners, they were in good enough position to make the throws a little difficult, and Ole Miss was never really able to hit the home run out on the sideline. And that was a big adjustment in the game to put Peters in there, and that was a big part of it. And Coleman and Leo Lewis, I felt like both guys played their best
super
ball game
physical.
of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, super physical and tackled and ran to the football and were anticipating before the play.
Hey, Matt, thanks so much. We appreciate it. We'll catch up again soon.
My pleasure, Bo. See you, man.
Matt Wyatt, MSU color analyst on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Okay. All right, so Matt weighed in on the recapping the game, some of the things that he was able to see between Fitz and Williams, offensive line, and, of course, on the defensive side of the football. All that's on the podcast. Go to iTunes, type in Out of Bounds Show. Podcast is on iTunes, which is awesome. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Logan Farms Honey Glazed Hams Market Cafe. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. It's that time of year. You want to thank your clients, employees, family, and friends? It's easy. A gourmet meat from Logan Farms Honey Glazed Hams Market Cafe. Call 366-4267. There is a discount, 15 items or more on selected products. And their website is jackson.loganfarms.com. Logan Farms, Maywood Mark, Northside Drive. Their number, 366-4267. We'll see you tomorrow, live from Clarksdale, Mississippi for the C Spire Connerly